Let me get recording. There we go. We're going to talk about the relationship of the muscles that cross your body and the fascia that adds support and strength and tension to your body today. We'll use that kind of as a theme, and we'll use that as we do rotations and as we hold postures, but we're also going to recruit that by using some holds and some presses, both on your hands and knees and in standing as we move through some of these. So letting your own system have more stability, that stability and strength that we all need right now. So start with your own breath. Begin to just tune into that east-west breath, imagining the circumference of your body and beginning to press the breath out into the sides and then filling into the backside of your body. Most of the lungs are actually in the backside of the body, so being able to cultivate the filling of the lungs into that space is an important thing to be able to do. Big full breaths. And then whatever feels appropriate for you, hand on your heart, hand on your belly, hand from the future and the past into the center to join in front of your heart into a prayer. Just show up in this moment, connecting your mind and your body, cultivating symmetry, alignment, and optimal health. Feel the breath moving in and out. Stay connected to right here, right now for this hour. Look down, check your feet on the floor. Bring your arms down and take it right into a shoulder circle, up and forward and around. Strong elbows, a little bit of glute contraction, slight belly contraction, up and forward and around 10 times. And then backwards, up and backward. That move in the shoulder allows the coordination of the shoulder girdle over the rib cage. Often when we're trying to get a shoulder to sit in the right position, we need to pay attention to the thorax, the position of the upper back, and that gentle rounding that needs to show up. But if there's too much rounding, it's hard to get the shoulders onto your back. If there's not enough rounding, then we start to have ribs that sublux or shift position and changes in what's going on in the shoulder blade. Take it right into an arm circle, arms out to the sides, fold your fingers to your palms, palms down, elbows strong and straight, circle forward, 40 circles. Feel the breath, continue to move in and out of your body. Feel your feet on the floor, the arch that goes across your toes, coming back to your heel, and just noticing if the weight distribution is even between your 2 feet. If it's not, hopefully it will be by the end. We want that to change. It's a good indication. Palms up, circle backwards, 40 circles back. And release. Interlace your fingers, flip your arms over, take it up into an overhead extension. Allow the entire shoulder girdle to lift up toward your ears. Find that where the shoulder blade has to move out to the sides and lift that upper deltoid, comes up, and then go ahead and soften your traps away from your ears just a little bit. Find the balance between that full shrug and down. And then see if you can soften your belly without letting your pelvis go forward. We know that sometimes the pull of the hip flexors is so great that this wants to happen. Or sometimes, like water, the body will move to the path of least resistance. And if there's not enough resistance with the abdominals, then the pelvis will fall forward here. So see if you can relax the belly muscles, but still keep some tension in your pelvis so that it stays in neutral. Good, over to one side, big lateral bend. Big full breath. Push the ribs up to the sky. One more breath here. Open space between the ribs into that intercostal cartilage. Come up over to the other side. Beginning to work into that lattice of muscles that cross the body, that add stability between the hip and the shoulder. It's very common to be able to go to one side more easily than the other. A little bit of scoliosis or just imbalance in the back muscles can cause that. But we want to cultivate that even, vital, open position on both sides. Good, release the arms. Arms out to the side, right into your standing windmill. Elbows strong and straight. Over to one side and up. And over to the other side. Let's do 5 of these. If you want to hang over on one side and just breathe and find more space, you're welcome to. Or you can just move between them. Take your feet slightly wider so that they're the width of the outer hip. And do the same thing. Over to one side. Come on up. Over to the other. Move with your breath. Inhale up. Exhale over. Inhale, lift. Exhale over. Inhale, lift. Exhale over. Take your feet wider one more time. This time, we're going to cross your body, right arm to left leg, coming down. Beginning to take it down into the hips a little more. Your butt muscles are having to open. The hips are having to be able to rotate. Over and lift. Squeeze your feet to the midline so you're cultivating that stability at the base so you can have freedom of movement at the top. Over and up. Over and lift. A few more. This is one of those working the body as a unit. It's working everything down the side. And one more. Back in. Bring your feet back to that second position. And this time, I want you to sit down into a little bit of a squat. Bring your hands forward so that you're just cupping your hands behind your head so that your head has something to gently press into. And now I want you to think of the alignment between your ear, your shoulder, your rib cage, and your hips. Hips going back. Using your butt muscles like catcher's mitts to pull your hips back so that your knees are still over your ankles. And just start with a little bit of a pulse there. Head pressing back into your hands, ribs staying full with your breath, down and up, little pulses. Then as you pulse, you're going to turn down and then up to the right, opening the space in the side ribs again, and then down and left. And down and open. Big breath, starting to make the shape of a rainbow with your spine. Little squat, up and over, down, really hips back behind you. So here, if your pelvis is tucked, then your low back is rounded. And right now I want you to be neutral or even a little bit anterior in your pelvis. So sticking your tailbone back behind you, sit bones behind you, finding that length And then feeling that gentle rounding happen right at the rib cage as you push your head back into your hands. A couple more of these. Up and over, down, and lift. Good. And then back to standing. Make sure you have a block or a chair in front of you. We are going to turn on the back side of our bodies a little bit here. So I want you just to bend over, put your hands on the seat of the chair, and then walk your hips back, slight bend at your knees, and just pull back so that you're starting to lengthen this entire side body. Find that your knees are starting to bend into a little bit of a squat. And just breathe and hold. Find length in the side body. Let that be open. Feel the breath move into the back side again, filling the thoracic back up, moving more breath into the bottom lobes of your lungs. Then with your hands there, have a little bit of attention on the position of your arms. So turn the elbows so that they're moving down toward the floor. That's gonna externally rotate the arm bone and lift the shoulders up toward the ceiling a little bit so that they move to the back of the socket. Nice. Now right foot forward, left foot back, moving into a bit of a lunge. We're gonna go up into a balance. So hands on the chair, then find your balance, taking it up. Squeeze your ankles towards each other and use that to make more space in your hips. Kind of in a scale. I just want you to move in and out of that a couple of times. Bending your knee, shifting your hips back. Letting your knee move to the outside so that your torso can go down in the middle of it. And then press back up again. Now bring your leg into a square. Press that leg up. Find the calf and the hamstring and the butt muscle and squeeze it all toward the bone and lift that leg up a little higher. And then bend your front knee, let it go slightly out to the side so that your torso can come down to the middle. And again, lift, curl, take it as high as possible. And release it down. Single leg balance and scales help to work on the position of the foot and ankle. They fire those deep intrinsic foot muscles and help work on the position of how the foot aligns with the rest of the leg. Second side, taking that step back, letting the torso come in, letting your knee move out to the side. Just open that space, breathe. Then come up into a single leg balance. And then come down again, bending, control it. And coming back up. This time, as you lift it up, bend the knee so that the leg is in a square. And then press it up to the sky. Turn on the calf, the hamstring, and the glute. See if you can get a little bit of hip extension. Get the knee slightly higher than the hip. Breathe. Release it down. Bend the knee, torso to the middle. Once more. Coming up. Make that square. And lift. Hold. About 10 seconds. Few breaths. And release it down. Okay, so now we're going to trigger, I'm going to switch sides here. Trigger this cross lattice that we have that gives extra support to your body by doing a balance again. but you're gonna take your hand to the same knee and press the knee into the hand as you go down and over touch the floor. This pressure is gonna help just cultivate the shoulder, engaging with the side body, engaging with the hip. So right now we're doing same side. So push the knee into the hand, push the hand down, and then on this standing hip, stand up, and then balance, take it over, touch the block. Keeping that connection. Let's do about 6 or so of those. Moving slowly, getting all the muscles in that standing hip to really work. And then switch sides. Second side, hand to knee. You can bend the bottom knee slightly for stability. Feel your foot on the floor really working. Bend over and press that knee into the hand. Sometimes your hip flexors can be weak, even though we're supposed to use them all the time when we're walking. Some people's hip flexors don't fire like they're supposed to. So cultivating this hip flexor engagement can really strengthen the body. If you overwork your hip flexors, we might need to get the quads to do a little more, or just the backside. Either way, right now we're just finding that stability. Over and up. Sometimes people have tight quads because their psoas isn't doing what it's supposed to do. And then activating it like this can actually get the quad to let go a little bit, because it finally knows that the hip flexor is here to help out. You should start to feel this in your butt muscles on that standing hip. And up. Nice. Now you're gonna take it over and cross the body so that you're taking one leg behind you. So left hand to right leg behind you, hands there. Now you have that cross body motion. Hold it up there. That's gonna add stability to the left shoulder. And maybe the right arm can come forward. Hold it. 10 seconds, find your breath. Find your glutes. See if you can lift that leg up a little more and come up. Second side. Right hand to left knee this time, cross body. Take it over. Hand to the table or chair or extending out. Working that stability. Feel the connection from the shoulder across your rib cage to that opposite hip. Breathe. See if you can move more air, more oxygen. And take it up. Excellent. Let me just check my notes. Let's go wide leg, torso circles, and link some of that together. Take it here, big and wide, all the way around. And around the other way. And then into a triangle, turning your right toes forward. Make sure that you have at least 2.5 feet between your feet. It's actually easier to get low to the ground with a triangle if your feet are wider. And then once you're here, front foot bisecting that back arch, squeeze your feet towards each other so you turn on the muscles on the inside of the leg. Then hip hinge here, so the spine stays stable, and then reach toward the floor. Find this position, let that front leg release. Big full breaths. Lengthening that front hamstring, working that hip hinge. If you need to cheat your back foot in a little bit more to help that inside leg rotate medially from the heel all the way into the knee, into the hip. That leg is rotating down toward the floor. Internal rotation. And then this front leg is doing a bit of an external rotation. So that knee is straight. 2 more breaths. Press through the foot, coming up, and switch sides. Arms out, take it over. Once again, squeezing to the midline, then back leg internally rotating, turning from the inner heel all the way up into the hip, moving that whole leg kind of down toward the floor, or rotating the inner thigh should start to lift to the ceiling, and this sit bone, back sit bone goes wide. Then with the front leg, it goes to straight, tighten the thigh, tighten your calf, pulling that calf up the backside of the knee to support the knee, and then straighten the leg and see if you can lift your thigh muscles up so that the kneecap actually lifts here. Feel the shoulder move toward your back, the muscles on the backside of your shoulder being stabilizers. And then inhale, come all the way up. Both feet forward. Take a slightly wider stance, coming into an extended lateral, or in yoga, Parsvakonasana, side angle pose. Bend the front knee, keeping the front knee directly over your front heel. So wherever that is, if your knee starts to go over your toes, then you need to move that back foot back a little bit more. And then wherever you are, front forearm to your knee, hand up in square or lengthen. And as that arm goes up, that rotation in the shoulder can happen. So think of almost the thumb moving up toward the ceiling, letting the shoulder, the armpit come forward, the shoulder blade come forward to the armpit, and then also pull back. There's a kind of delicate balance between this forward rotation and pulling back, and then lengthening. Maybe your hand can come all the way to the floor. That's a little more work. Find it. Stay with your breathing. Feel the sensations of your body. Stay right here in the moment. Inhale, coming up, switching your legs. Second side extended lateral. Again, check your front knee. The other thing that likes to happen with this knee is that it likes to turn toward the midline. So you have to find the backside of your body, all the glutes, to pull that knee into straight so that the foot and ankle and knee line up and the hip stays in that good position, that squat position. Back leg opening, front forearm to your front knee or hand to the floor, and then bringing that arm down so that the shoulder blade both lifts toward your ear, moves down toward the floor, and you find it on your back. All of that is working. Find your breath. Stay connected to your breathing. In and out through your nose if that's available. If you need to use in and out through your nose and mouth, that's okay too. Just keep breathing. And then inhale, come up. Both feet forward. Bend your knees. Reach down, touch the floor, flat back. Bend knees here, so kind of a horse stance squat. And then see if you can come up onto your toes and get the entire backside from the bottom of your foot up to your calf into your hamstrings, into your glutes, glutes pulling back and lifting. Let that all work. Maybe one hand can come up off the floor. Maybe both hands can come up off the floor. Hold it and breathe. Work those legs. And release your heels. Lift up, slight bend at the knee still. Reaching out, hips back, hands together. We use a foundation training move here. Hips back, lift your chest. Taking it up, find the back muscles, find the butt muscles, find the hamstrings. Hold it. And come all the way up. Release your hands, come down onto your hands and knees into cats and dogs. Let's do the one vertebrae at a time. Starting in an arch, so belly hanging toward the floor. Start at the base of your tailbone. Tuck your tailbone, feel your sit bones move towards each other. Let one vertebrae at a time move up your entire back, all the way through the shoulder blades. Shoulder blades push wider apart. Neck moves wide, chin tucks down. And then keep it there. Lift your tailbone, spread your sit bones. Let one vertebra at a time move down. Finally, into your shoulder blades. Let your shoulder blades move towards each other. And then head and neck. Leave your head, tuck your tailbone, one vertebra at a time in your back, through your middle back, through the shoulders, neck and head, the last thing to move. Now we're going to go the other way. Start at your head, keeping everything else round, butt tight, squeezing towards each other, sit bones squeezing. Lift the head, let the head be the leader, through your neck, then in between your shoulder blades, and into the low back, lifting your tailbone. Then head goes down, neck moves wide, shoulder blades come up, middle back. Then you really feel your abdominals here. Turn each segment of your abdominals on. They are your flexors, upper abdominals, middle abdominals, low abdominals. And then just move, make it fluid. Move however it feels good to you. Move your pelvis around, maybe little circles. And then come down onto your back for a hip crossover. Cross the left ankle over the right knee. Bring your palms down to the floor. And then take your foot all the way to the right. Right leg comes to the floor, left foot to the floor. And then press your knee away from you and turn your head to the left. We're going to stay here for a bit, letting this leg bone gently rotate outward. We use this for spinal rotation, pelvic stability, pelvic alignment, if there's a disparity between the two sides of your hips, because one side is moving into extension and one side gets to stay in flexion. There's a really different pull on your pelvis. It's one of my favorites. Stay there and just allow it to do its magic. while you focus on your breath. Then reach up and grab onto that knee and gently pull the knee towards you. And it will just move into some different hip flexor and glute muscles. Put a different stretch on that. You can feel your sit bone move out to the side as the leg internally rotates a little bit. So there's both pelvic and leg bone change happening here. And maybe you feel just some release in your glutes. Now we're gonna make this active. So go back and forth between external rotation, pushing your knee away from you, and in, out, and in. Just freeing up the leg bone in the hip socket and getting that to translate all the way into movement up into the pelvis. Good, press it out one more time. Now you should feel this on the outer part of your hip. Sometimes people feel it on the inside and it takes a while to move to the outer part of your hip. See if that little bit of action helps that open a little bit more and moves the feeling to the outside. Inhale, both legs coming up, and then switch sides. Right ankle over the left knee, all the way down to the left side. Look to your right, gently press your knee away from you, and breathe. Feel what your shoulder blades are doing here. I just noticed mine were a little bit uneven, so I used that to tuck them underneath and get them more even on my back. Check what yours are doing. Where can you move the breath into the back of your body? And then reach up, grab onto the knee and pull it towards your body, crossing your body, getting a totally different stretch there. Sometimes when we do these little internal, external rotations, I feel like it's kind of like when you have a drawer that's a little stuck and you're trying to pull it out, but you have to push it in a little bit before you can pull it out. That's kind of what we're doing. If you have a hip that just isn't moving quite as well as we need to in the socket, spinning in the socket, we can just go the opposite way a little bit before we move back into it. So move in and out of that internal and external rotation. Feel what's happening all the way up at the hip, in and out, how the greater trochanter is moving toward the sit bone and away from the sit bone, and how that can move all the way up into the pelvis and into the extensors in your back a little bit. And then press it out once more, and hopefully we've gotten the feeling of that activation, muscle activation, to move to the back side of your body. Check your shoulders once again. The position of your shoulders can help what's going on in your spine and translate all the way into the pelvis. And again, that connection between the shoulder and opposite hip, that strength and sturdiness that can happen both in a kind of a passive position like we're in now. It's not super active, but it can still hold that gentle stability so that you can take a full breath. Steady strength. Then coming up,
Take it into a hip lift. Cross the left ankle over the right knee again. Bring the right leg into a square. Hold it. Pulling the right knee towards you, pushing the left knee away. And then everything else in your spine is stable. Your pelvis should be in neutral, so hip bones to pubic bone level on the front. That means you should have a slight curve in your low back here. So let the tailbone side of your body feel heavier to the floor. And then double check that your shoulders are tucked underneath you. And take a deep breath into the space behind your heart, making sure that the thorax or upper back is still connected down into the floor. You may even feel a slight pull on the pec or the bicep here. See if you can take a breath and let that go. If it feels like it's holding too much tension and your shoulders are too active, you can even squeeze everything and then go into the contraction and then soften into that expansion again. Release your foot, switch sides, take it up. Notice the difference between the sides. My right hip is much tighter right now than my left was. How is that in your body? Pull it in, press that knee away, and then check in with your shoulders once again. Maybe even your neck. And if there's tension that you can't release, go into the tension, squeeze everything, and then soften into that expansion. Releasing both feet to the floor, pelvic tilts, rocking your hips back, flattening your floor, flattening your back to the floor, squeezing your glutes, lifting your tailbone off the floor like in a tuck, and then moving your tailbone down toward the floor, sit bones go wide, low back comes into an arch, and kind of gliding through your shoulder blades. Back and forth about 10 of these. Get both sides to work together, squeezing at the base, widening at the base, squeezing at the base. You can think of that space between the tailbone and the pubic bone, and that has to come together, pelvic floor, and then that also gets to expand into that diamond space, and then everything comes together, sit bones, tailbone, pubic bone, hug together, and then widen and make more space. And then come up to seated.
Have a seat with your legs out straight, really tall through your back, hands behind you, shoulders open, ribs tucked in. So it's easy here to let the ribs pop forward, but keep those front ribs kind of in and down, and see if you can let the shoulders open. And then pull your feet back and right into femur rotations, thighs tight, out and in, 10 times. Moving all the way at the hip. And then wider, same thing, out and in. And wider once more. And then bring your legs back in. Take your hands off the floor if you can. If you really need that support, you can keep them down there. But from here, lift your right leg and move it wide and back together. And then left leg wide and back together. Out and in and out and in. Thighs tight, pressing down into the floor. Feel the pressure from your sit bones up, moving into your low back so that you can maintain that slight arch in your low back. And then from here, interlace your fingers, take it all the way up into an overhead extension. Here, hold and breathe. Pull your pinky toe side back, press your legs down into the floor, keep your thighs really tight. Check out your sit bones, feel if they're even on the floor. Can you create more arch in your low back? Space between your ears and your shoulders. And release your arms back down. Take your legs wide, arms out to the side, crossing your body again. We're getting those strong cross fiber tension. Reach towards your toes. Inhale, come back up, take it wide. Exhale, over to the other side. Inhale up, exhale over. You decide how quickly you want to move through this. In, out. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. And then just reach toward the center, back, straight. Feel those inner hamstrings. Squeeze your legs, press them down to the floor, make them really active. Come as far forward as you're able and just breathe some length into those inner hamstrings, into the glutes potentially, or the back side of your body. Open that all up. Thighs tight, 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 tight. Three more breaths there. Keep going. Big inhales and exhales. Really just let that release. And then bring your feet forward. Hands behind you again, point and flex 10 times. Toes forward. Putting a lengthen demand on the top of the foot, ankle, plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. Back and forth 10 times. And then onto your back. We're going to use that cross body action once more, maybe 2 more times. Bring your right leg up, cross the left hand to the right inside of the knee. So giving that a bit of pressure, you could even wrap your thumb like this around the knee so that you have good pressure inside the knee and kind of you can press into your thumb. From the bottom of your inner heel, think of that inward spiral happening. Inner heel, inner knee, adductor, inner thigh, all the way up into the hip, sit bone goes wide. Inner hip flexor, the muscle
the iliacus part of the psoas that goes from the hip bone in, that's working, and arm down at the side. And I just want you to create this pressure in toward the midline and up. And we're triggering this left shoulder cross your body all the way to the right knee, letting that all just stabilize through the belly, through the back. Keep holding and breathing. You can make sure that your left heel is pressing down to the floor. Left glute is a little bit active, pulling the thigh bone to the back side of the hip socket. And release. Second side, bend the knee, bring the hand in this square up and put it to the inside of the knee, wrapping it across the top. Inner heel, inner knee, squeezing to the midline, letting that slight internal rotation happen all the way up the hip. Then all the way up into the inside of the hip, iliacus, beginning to pull the pelvis, even though nothing's moving, you're stable. Feel your belly and your shoulder and your back all just be stabilizers here. That right heel on the ground, right glute pulling the top of the right thigh down toward the floor, creating a little bit of extension into your hip and your back. You should get tired enough that maybe you feel some shakes. And release. Both feet on the floor, pelvic tilts one more time. And then roll over onto your belly. This time we're gonna find that cross body on the back side. So I wanna have you bend your knee. You can just rest your forehead on the floor, reach back, and see if you can touch that heel. Your knee may have to come slightly off the floor, but hand to the inside of your heel, and then you're gonna press both into the heel and through the back, into the shoulder, cue your belly, a lot of work on your belly. And if you can't touch here, you can just even cultivate that with some space. If you can get it, reach back, touch them together. Push, external rotation happening at the thigh, across the back, across the shoulder. 3 more breaths. And release. Switch sides. Bend, reach toward that heel. Press inner heel to hand, shoulder. And release. Both of your feet out. If it's comfortable for your low back, create length in your belly. Hands, elbows on the floor, hands into fists. Pull your forearms away from each other. Shoulder blades can move down your back. If this is too much extension for your back, just stay here. But if this is okay, press the bottom of your feet together. Find your glutes once more. Open up the hips. Press the bottom of your feet together and release. And feel your butt muscles really activate. Length through your belly, strength through your shoulders, so you're not collapsing. There's a lot of muscle activation happening in the shoulder, pulling the forearms apart, moving the shoulder blade down your back.
press and release. Can you get both sides working? And release here. Take both legs wide. And then just come down, forehead down, legs super wide, tuck your toes under, tighten up your thighs. Get those outer hips to fire up. Tuck your tailbone. Now see if you can make your legs so strong that you push up into a plank here. Wide leg plank on your elbows. Three more breaths. You've got this. And release down. Bring the legs in. Come up onto your hands and knees. Round and arch your back, cats and dogs. And then roll over onto your back and either legs up over your chair or legs out straight on the floor into your meditation, Shavasana. As you move into that, find your breath. Allow any tension in your body to just have awareness of it. If you need to use that squeeze that we did earlier, go into the contraction, allow the expansion to happen. Today, I'm going to have you listen to the sounds that are all around you. And then shrink your awareness of the sounds just to what's happening in the closer circle of you. And then maybe just to the sounds of my voice and the sounds that your own body makes. Maybe a gurgle in your belly or the in and out of your breath. If you get really quiet, perhaps you can even feel your heartbeat or hear your heartbeat. Connect to the sounds of your own vitality. Connecting to your senses are one of the pieces that you can come to when you're coming to the present moment. The feeling of your breath, the feeling of whatever is touching your body or the resting of your body on the floor, and the sounds that you're noticing around you. So as you hold that awareness of just the sounds that are close to you, we're going to go into that 2 minutes of silence. If you notice your mind wander, see if you can bring it back by checking into those sounds again. This gentle exchange of oxygen for carbon dioxide is the vital pulsation that happens in your body, whether you're paying attention to it or not. But it also is one of the most powerful things to connect to bring you right here, right now. It can change your state of mind. It can change your state of body. It can shift you from fight or flight into rest and digest. Every little cell in my body is healthy. Every little cell in my body is well. My friends are here to support my aliveness. And we can all send that amazing vibration out into the world. We are the lucky ones. As always, you're able to just turn off your computer and stay in this deep state, continue with the meditation, or I will unmute you and you can show back up to say goodbye.